Today I'm going to tell you about my favorite window in the entire world, and that is the double hung window. It's the pinnacle of window design, and which is pretty amazing because it was designed well over 100 years ago. Easy to use, wonderfully effective, and rarely does it need to be replaced. Alright, I want to show you with this sample how the best and simplest window of all time is really supposed to work. And we'll kind of talk about the anatomy of this. Now this is a double hung window. It's called double hung because you have a top sash, you have a bottom sash. And these both operate like this. It's very simple design. These use a very simple rope and pulley system. You can see here, there's a rope. It is attached to the side of the sash in here. So as I move this, the rope feeds through here and feeds into a weight right here that is perfectly counterbalanced. So this is an 8-pound sash. So I have a 4-pound weight on this side and a 4-pound weight on this side. It helps balance it perfectly so that wherever you want the window to go, it will stay there. Unlike spring balances or all kinds of different balances, it doesn't get harder as you put more tension on it. There's the same amount of tension no matter where you are. The same applies to the top sash. It's balanced with pulleys, one pulley on either side, attached to a rope, and it has its own weight. So there's a weight pocket here in the corner on the side of each window, so that's why you have this casing like this. Now the perfect way for a double hung window to operate is like this. You got both sashes open about halfway. It lets the hot air go out, the cool air come in. That's why these were so popular down in the southern parts of the US. It was just by necessity of design. Before air conditioning, this is how you could get some really good airflow. They're held together. The hardware on these, other than the pulleys, is very simple. You've got a lock, a simple sash lock that pulls them tight at the meeting rail, and you've got a simple lift right down here at the bottom. Now I'm going to show you how to remove your sash so that you can work on your window. Maybe you need to replace a broken rope. Maybe you need to take the sashes out for restoration. So basically what you're going to do, and it's going to be very simple on this because this is not all caulked up and painted up and stuck shut, but that's the biggest challenge on restoring these old double hung windows is they don't operate smoothly like this anymore because they're so caked up with paint or just junk from over decades of abuse and misuse. But the design of these, to get them out, you have a stop, an interior stop that goes all the way around the inside. I've nailed these on. Sometimes they're attached with screws, but this one I've left unattached so you can see how it comes off. Normally you would just pry the nails from this and remove it. The top of this is coped so that it fits the profile perfectly up here. Set that aside, and now I've got access to the side of my sash. I'll unlock it and swing it out. You can see on the side here, I have a rope. The rope is simply attached into this rope mortise. This is meant to hold the rope in place so it has nowhere to go, and then it's carved out wider here at the top. That's the pulley mortise so it can slide past the pulley. Simply pull that out, release it like that, and do the same thing to the other side. Now I've got my bottom sash out. To get your top sash out, it's held in place by something similar to the stop called a parting bead. It's this piece right along here. It's on both sides and on the top, just like the stop. What you want to do is put your top sash all the way to the bottom, and then this is not nailed in place. Sometimes it is. It's usually just ended up to be caulked and painted in place. Put it all the way down, and you can remove this. It's just a simple rectangular piece of wood that fits into a channel here. Once you remove that, just like on a bottom sash, you can swing this side of the sash out, take the rope off, the knot will hold it, keep it from going back in the pulley. You can remove that side and set your sash aside. Now you're left with just an open jamb. So we'll talk about some jamb anatomy here so you understand all the components that really make up the double hung window. It's not just the sash. Right here, you've got your weight access doors. Unlike in this sample where I can get to these weights very easily right now, once this is trimmed out and installed in a wall, you're not going to have access like this unless you want to take off all the casings, which can cause some damage to your plaster, or if it's a second story you want to try and do it outside, that's a little too tough. So Most good window manufacturers back in the day, and we're talking 50, 200 years ago, since the double hung window's been invented, they'll put weight pocket access doors here. They're pre-cut so that you can remove the door and you can get access to the weights through the jamb. It's pretty cool. Sometimes you won't have any, you'll have to cut some new ones, or you will have to remove the casing to get to it. But that seems to be a rarity in my experience, so most plan for that, hope for that, plan for the fact that you may have to cut some new ones. You've got on your inside, the jamb is this surface here. This is your interior casing. It's not technically a part of the window. And you've got this piece here, which is called your blind stop. Your blind stop is what holds the top sash in from the outside. It's integrated into the jamb, so this is not removable without doing some serious carpentry. You'd have to remove the exterior casings and then pry this off because it's usually nailed and rabbited into the wood as a part of the jamb. Down here you have your stool, which is on the inside, and your sill, which is on the outside. I know that's a common misconception. Your window sill is actually what the sash rests on top of. The stool is what keeps it airtight at the bottom. So typically what we hear in books or people talk about is like if I'm resting my elbows on the windowsill, it's actually not the windowsill, it's the window stool. Viewing your window from the outside, the anatomy, here's our exterior trim, just the same as the casings from the inside, a head casing, trim legs, and you can see here's the back side of the stool, here's the sill, and there would typically be either a sub-sill or kind of a detail on the sill that allows it to shed water. Right now in the sample we don't have anything like that. But you can see how the blind stop works here. It's a step in from the trim. This is where your screens will typically go. They'll rest inside that. It's used as a storm channel or a screen channel, and that's how it's designed. This is, I believe, Western casing. There's also Eastern casing where the trim itself is the blind stop, so you don't have that little rabbit for your screen or storm. If you're curious about how to make screens, check out my other YouTube video, DIY window screens or DIY window storms, for how you can build a wood storm or wood screen that fits on a window just like this. Now let's talk a little sash anatomy. On a sash, you have rails which run horizontal to the ground, think of like railroad tracks, and you have stiles which run vertically. These items that separate glass are called muntins. There's a vertical muntin, horizontal muntin. The vertical muntins almost always go all the way through. So this is one piece of wood that continues all the way through. They're mortised in here. The horizontal ones are typically intersected. So this itself is a muntin, this is another one over here. You could remove them individually if you took the whole window apart. That's how it's assembled. On the sides, you can see a good view of your rope mortise. This is where the knot goes in. The rope is fed up through here, and you've got right there space for the pulley. These are all mortise and tenon joinery. You can see how the tenon comes through the mortise here. It's cut away because of the pulley mortise. And then you have at the bottom, you have a meeting rail. This is a slightly different modified one that either has a little step in it or a slight bevel in it, and that's to help air seal. When you close the top and bottom sash together, it creates a little bit of a weather seal, especially when you lock it together like that. On the outside, you have putty. On the inside, we had profiles, molding profiles of different styles, depending on the year and style of your window. On the outside, the glass fits into each one of these individual panes here. It's held in by glazing points, and then it is putty glazed like this and painted over top of it. This one we've left unpainted and some of it done with a back bed of putty like this, which is best practices, or you can also skip the back bed if you want something a little less expensive, not quite as high end. It's not a big deal, but it is an option for you in how you do your windows. Your bottom sash is much the same way. You have the meeting rail on the top this time. You can see it has that slight bevel on it as well. Mortise and tenon joinery. You have the pulley mortise, rope mortise, and the knot mortise. On the outside, putty, points to hold the glass in place. Most of the time you have a larger bottom rail on a bottom sash. That's one of the ways you can tell. And the bottom rail is sloped slightly to accommodate the water runoff and match the same angle as the sill. On the inside, profiles all the way around, and you've got your bar lift right here. All right, we've talked about all the anatomy. Let's put it back together. I'll show you how it goes back in. The double hung window.
There you have it, the double hung window. If you want to learn more about windows and follow me through a restoration of one of these, check out the video on your left. Or if you want to learn to build your own DIY screens that'll fit on a window like this, the video on the right is the one you want. Be sure to subscribe because you never know when the next video will be exactly what you need.
This is my window. I love this window. I will tell you how it works and stuff. You see, right? It's good, no? Yeah?